What is a component in React? This question sounds simple, but the answer reveals whether you truly understand how React thinks about your application. A component is a unit of UI, a function that describes how part of the interface should look and behave for a given state. Think of it as a more refined version of the formula we saw in question 1, UI equals f of props, state, and context. A component receives input data through props, may have its own internal state, can read from context, and returns a description of the UI, not the DOM itself, but a description of what should be in the DOM. Here is the minimal example. A function called button that takes children as a prop and returns a button element. That is already a complete React component. It receives props. It returns React elements. And it participates in the reconciliation process. Now let us be precise about what a component does not do. A component does not update the DOM directly. It does not control when rendering happens. It does not decide when to re-render. And it does not store the application's global state. React is responsible for all of that. The component only describes, React acts. A component consists of 4 parts. First, props, data coming from outside, read-only. Changing props triggers a new render. Second, state, local data belonging to the component. Changing state also triggers a new render. Third, the render output, which is not the DOM, but a description of what should appear in the DOM. And fourth, effects, side effects that run outside the render phase to synchronize the component with the external world. One important distinction that trips up many developers: a component is not the same as a DOM element. A single component can render 0 DOM nodes, 1 node, many nodes, other components, or nothing at all, for example when using portals or fragments. When it comes to component identity, React does not track component instances directly. Instead, it matches elements in the tree by 3 things: the function type, the position in the tree, and the key prop in lists. If all 3 match, React preserves the component and its state. If they do not match, the component is remounted from scratch. This is why moving a component to a different position in the tree resets its state. React architecture is ultimately an architecture of boundaries. Components define boundaries for state, for responsibility, for error handling via error boundaries, for suspense, and for re-renders. Let us clear up some common misconceptions. A component is not an HTML block. A component is not a class. Functional components are the standard today. A component is not a file. And a component is definitely not a screen. The correct definition is simple: a component is a function that describes UI. So how do you phrase this in an interview? In React, a component is a function that receives props, reads local state through hooks like useState, and returns a description of the UI. React uses components as units of reconciliation, rendering, and state management. The mental model to take away: a component is not what exists, it is how the UI should look. It is a description, not a thing. That is all for today. If this video helped you reason about components as reusable UI units built from props and state, and feel more confident in your next interview, hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to be able to explain React like this in an interview, check the link below. A new React deep dive drops every week. See you in the next one. Bye bye.